Hey everyone. Well, I'm back. That means there's another adventure to be had. That seems to be the routine here. This one here, this one's got a long story behind it. It started 3 years ago, and it was a buddy of mine that told me about a car that's out in the woods. And he said it's been out there since the 80s, and it is in rough shape. But it's a very cool car. This extraction process is going to be pretty impressive. It's probably, I would say this one's going to be the most extensive one that I've had to do to this point. And I've done a lot that hasn't been videoed and stuff like that in the past. All right, so let's talk about what we got so far, because things is going to start getting stacked and you won't see them as they're getting stacked in and stuffed in the bed. So far, we got those wheels I mentioned before with tires mounted on them. We get some random sheets of plywood. We got a bunch of random 2x4s and 2x6s and stuff like that up there. We got a lay down mat to stay off the ground. And then in all this, we got my basic road toolkit. We got some hand wipes, chunk of chain. In here we have all toe straps and a bunch of stuff related to toe straps, like short straps that wrap around each other and stuff like that. Then we got 2 of the 2-inch strong ratchet straps. You'll understand tomorrow why I need these. A couple of come-alongs for just in case. And then we'll start with this. These factory jacks are always nice to keep around, because when you're trying to start to get something out of the ground, you can dig a little hole, get this in, and start getting it lifted high enough to get the next bigger jack in. And I might even bring the other even bigger jack, most likely. But sometimes that little guy will be a lifesaver to get into a tight area, just to make enough room for the other one. Then we got this guy, which some people call this a farm jack, a utility jack, a high lift jack is the most common name for it. These things are the cat's pajamas, because these can be used as a jack, as a come along, like you can hook this. You can hook basically something to this end and then to this end, and as you jack it, it'll actually pull it like a winch. And it has multiple functions on top of being a conventional bumper style jack. So that'll probably come in handy for a couple of things while we're there. And then one of my old favorites, this is a fireman's tool that I found in a junk car one day. And this thing has come in handy for prying at things like, say, brake drums and stuff like that, and it's got some good weight to bend things out of the way and stuff like that. There's a chance I'm going to bring my welder with me, because I may have to weld something together and make it roadworthy, so I'm going to bring a fire extinguisher with me also. So, yeah, so 2 come-alongs, some WD-40. This is a bag of ratchet straps. There's more ratchet straps over there. Those will go in. So this is what we got so far. I'm going to slide some of this in, and we'll start on the next dig out of what we have here. And then there'll be more up at my storage unit that I'll be grabbing. All right, second pile of goods. Loaded up the tailgate, so now I gotta pile all this in and make room for, I think, one more thing. And I still gotta pick up a couple more things in my other town where I'm storing my all my other equipment 100 miles away, because that's where I'm picking up the Bobcat anyway. So this is everything I have here, I think, except for one more thing. And then in the morning when I go up, I gotta throw everything out of this truck into the other truck, because the other truck's an F350 diesel, and the equipment trailer is pretty substantially heavy, and the Bobcat's a bigger Bobcat. So rather than torture this thing, it's already hooked up to my buddy's diesel, so we'll run it with that. So I'll just have to do the work swapping this over when I get up there. But let's take a look at the rest of the stuff that we're bringing. So we got my new favorite Mini Mac chainsaw. Love that thing, by the way. And I got my little Bauer chainsaw. This thing kicks some serious butt. We got some fuel, got some bar oil. We got the weed whacker with the heavy trimmer end on it, and the extension pole, and the chainsaw for that. So clearing the path. And then there's some things I have to brace up in the back of the car, because I don't think they'll make the ride. So I brought some of these shelf brackets. Those might work to jam in place and put some self-tappers in. If not, maybe these blocks of wood will. If not, I got other scrap metal in there that I can wedge in place, and that's why I'm bringing the welder, just to make sure I can brace the back of the car to be safe for the ride. So, yeah, so up here we got some extra plywood, some duct tape. We got a whole case. You might be wondering why I cut so many different pieces of plywood. You'll understand tomorrow what these are all used for, but the plywood is much nicer than regular wood, because even though these are so small, I can run a screw them together without them splitting apart. Like if this is regular wood, it would just split into pieces. So I'm gonna have to stack multiples of these so I can screw a couple together, a couple more together, and make like a spacer for keeping the car up off the ground, basically, between the chassis and the axle. So you'll see more of that tomorrow. So that was all the cutting of that stuff. So we got that. And we got a couple of more of the 2-inch fat ratchet straps. I forgot that I bought those. Got a winch that goes in a receiver, but I also drilled a hole and added some links here so I can just hook this to a chain, because my buddy's trailer doesn't have a winch on it. So I'll be able to use this controller for the winch. Definitely don't want to forget that. And then over here we got 2 batteries we can use for that, so that should be good. And then we got some random metal brackets and stuff like that to keep some of that wood in place. Those are, and that's what those are. And we got a battery charger in case if all the batteries go dead. At least I can run over to the guy's house, plug that in if we need to do a little more work. Then we got some metal self-tappers, a bunch of short wood screws, longer wood screws in these 2 buckets here. We got tape measure, we got safety glasses, and a bunch of extra gloves in there, and impact driver for all the screws. We have the 1/2-inch impact gun to deal with lug nuts, because front wheels have to come off and they've been sitting out there for 40-something years probably. So bringing that. I did bring a 4-way bar also, but when they're stuck, sometimes it's nice to just be able to go backwards, forwards, and keep working them with the gun rather than spinning. Then we got the welder. We got the welding helmet and gloves and all that stuff. We got some PB Blaster for freeing up lug nuts and such like that. And we got sledgehammers and pry-bars and everything else to take care of beating the drums free. And we got a leaf blower, basically just for cleaning myself or my buddies, whoever shows up, cleaning blowing ourselves off because we'll probably be covered in a bunch of yard waste. The duct tape, that'll come in handy for all the wood chunks if I want to just duct tape them all together so they're one solid block, and then I can screw them in place rather than screwing them separately. So put in that. And yeah, so I'm going to work on getting this sorted and piled in here, somewhat organized, see if I have room for the other stuff I got to grab, and just a couple more pieces of plywood and wood that we can use to put under the jack. And yeah, so let's get this sardined away, make room for even more stuff. All right, I think that's the last of it. I didn't show the last things going on, but I'll show them to you now. So we got the full-size floor jack. We got the dual fuel generator, so I can run propane, not fuel. That way there I can run the welder if I need to. And probably a couple other doodads just squeezed in there. And one of the most important things is that orange jug there. That's the tick spray, because the ticks here in New England lately have been absolutely out of control. You've probably seen it on social media and all that jazz, all the conspiracy talk, all that mumbo jumbo. But yeah, so we got the tick spray, I got mosquito spray, I got gloves, I got the tripods in there. I think I got pretty much everything. There's a couple of things I do have to grab up in my storage, one being a 1/2-20 tap for the lug nuts to be able to get the wheels on, because this thing has no back wheels, and probably no back wheels since 1980 or in the 80s. So I think I have one tap set here. Let's see if this goes up to, I don't think this will go up to 1/2-20. I think these only go up to 3/8. What do we got? Survey says 1/2-20. 1/2-28. It's old eyes. What does that say? Alright, so maybe that's the one I need. We'll find out. I'm going to bring it with me just because it's right here, just in case. So in the morning, when I get to my storage unit, if I forget to grab my special lug stud taps, I'll have something with me. Something is better than nothing. So that'll be it for tonight. And I will I'll probably tie this into the walk around video that I initially took up there, as long as I don't watch it and say, oof, you were terrible. As long as that video is kind of okay. I took it kind of in a rush one day when I was just going by to make sure the car was there, and 30-foot pine didn't fall on it or something like that. But anyway, that's enough mumbo jumbo for right now. Truck's loaded. I can take care of a couple other things and whatnot, and we'll check in tomorrow. It's going to be exciting. I promise you, it's going to be exciting and interesting. All right, so I thought I was done for the night, and then I got a message from my buddy Chris. He's going to go up in the morning with me, and he said if I want to bring my trailer up there, he'll grab my trailer with his truck and bring that up, and we can put the charger on that. And it sounds like he's just going to follow me all the way back to my house, most likely, or at least back down to where I have to borrow the Bobcat and then switch back, because initially I was going to use the trailer and the Bobcat to go up, get it out, get the car on that trailer, and then bring the car all the way out here, and then go all the way back up there to get the Bobcat, and then bring the Bobcat back to where I'm borrowing that, and then come all the way back out here. So sounds like Chris wants to do some of the driving. So I took some measurements. It looks like it might just barely fit on this trailer. Like, I'm gonna bring some grease for the sides of it to get between the fenders. We'll see what we can do. But it might just barely fit. So I'm gonna unload that, and then we'll be ready for the morning, I think. All right, so now I think we're finally ready for the morning. Everything's all locked down on the trailer. Car's unloaded, that's all locked up. Kill switch is on and all that jazz. And the ramps that are on there, I probably won't need them, but I'm gonna bring them just in case. Sorry about that. So those are all strapped down, everything's locked in, everything's locked on, safeties. Everything is done. Now the only thing left to do tonight is feed myself, shower myself, get to bed at a reasonable hour so I can get out early in the morning and get this underway. So part of the reason why I'm showing all of this, by the way, is I know a lot of this is like pretty boring, you know, taking a car off the trailer, putting the straps away and stuff like that. But this is the part that like really nobody talks about when like they're talking about a bond find or something like that. They're like, oh, bond find, we're going to clean some stuff off of it and have a ramp truck back up to it and pull it on. Well, it's not always that easy because the bond find isn't 5 miles from your house. So nowadays, I got to tow off the Mass Pike 3 miles to the gas station where AAA was going to take me. And it was like $400, something like that. And that was just to pick it up on the side of the road. That was nothing complicated. So like this is realistically the way a lot of us are doing it. But like most people will just show the dragging it on the trailer or cleaning it off or what when they get it back to their house. But this is all the stuff like this one here. You'll see why I had to prep so bad for all this stuff. And it's exciting to me. I enjoy all of this. I love the planning. I love the execution. I love the hard work and the satisfaction that goes in with it at the end. So I want to share it with people that just don't know maybe. So anyway, stick with it. We're gonna go get this thing tomorrow. Pass. But this one here. So anyway, my buddy told me about it about 3 years ago, and he told me where it was. So I did a bunch of research. I went online to town maps and tax maps and all that stuff, and I found property lines, found out what property it was on, and then I was trying to research and get a hold of the owner of the property to ask about it. And I was having one heck of a time to try and figure out who the owner of that property was. Turns out it was in the middle of changing hands between 2 family members. So I ended up trying everything I could. Nobody was living there. So I went back and forth, just all different searches and you name it, searching names, checking Facebook. I mean, stalker amounts of research to try and find this person. So I eventually I just gave up on trying to find them, and I just kept driving by and driving by and driving. Every spare day I had, I was driving by. And then finally one day I caught somebody there working on the house. Turns out it was the owner, and he grew up there, so he knew the property. So I went up and I met him and asked about an old car in the woods, and he's like, oh yeah, it's been there since I was a kid and whatnot. So he's like, let's go take a look at it. So he vaguely remembered where it was, because this isn't just past a couple of trees, this is out there. So we ended up venturing off into the woods, and he wasn't sure exactly where it was from memory, so we were just going in a general direction. We were kind of going over here, and then we saw it, like part of it peek through on the other side. So we ended up finding it. Sure enough, it was the car it was supposed to be and whatnot. So I checked it out. It's in rough shape. I mean, it has been outside in the woods since the 80s probably and whatnot. So I talked to him, and he said a family member wanted it, or a friend, I think it was a friend, that had dibs on it. So I said, okay, well, if he changes his mind or doesn't want it, I'd be very interested in it. And so he reached out to his friend. No, he still wants it. So I said, okay. And I waited a little while, and I reached out to him. And I was like, oh, did your buddy get that out of the woods? And he's like, no, not yet, but he's going to take it. I'm like, all right. I was like, well, just tell him to be careful with it, because I've seen countless cars get ripped out of the ground with excavators and backhoes and everything else without like taking precautions, and literally ripping the cars in half where they can never be built again. This one still has enough structure where it could be built, as long as you don't get aggressive, because this one will most likely want to tear in half. But if you can keep it from tearing in half, that like when it tears in half or rips in half substantially, it's a goner. Once the windshield posts bend and all the roofing structure bends and the package tray areas bend, like once they get bent to a certain point, you're really not going to put them back together. So if you can keep it straight, then you're essentially doing rush repair. That's not a big deal. So anyway, so I talked to him and said his buddy was still interested. So I told him, be careful. And I even told him, I said, let him know that I'd be happy to come help get it out of there free of charge. Just, I want to see the car survive. I don't want somebody to just rip this thing in half. He said, okay, I'll let him know. And then I said, if your buddy's just going to pull it out of there just to sell it, tell him to put a price on it, and I'll buy it off him where it sits to ensure that the car is going to be salvageable. And he's like, okay, I'll let him know. And he got back to me and said, no, he's definitely still going to take it, doesn't want to sell it. Okay. So I waited a few months. I reached back out to him, and no, he's still going to take it. And then I waited like another month, reached back out to him, check in. Hey, did he get that thing out of there? And he's like, no, he hasn't. I was like, well, if he wants to give up on it, I'm still interested in it. So he's like, all right, let me see if I can talk him out of it. So he calls him, and sure enough, the guy probably came to his wits saying, it's not worth it for me to try and get that thing out of the woods. So he said, yep. He's like, all right, he's giving up on it. So if you want it, he's like, I'm thinking like $3,000. That was substantially more than I would want to invest with the situation, the condition, the location, and what it's going to take to get it out of there. So I said, okay. I was like, let me ponder it, and then let me see what I can come up with for a plan to get it out. So I was going back and forth. I wasn't thrilled with the price, and then just out of nowhere, like a few days later, he messaged me back, maybe a week later. He's like, if you want it, he's like, $2,000 and it's yours. I'm like, okay, so that's a little more reasonable. So I told him, I was like, all right, I'm going to work on logistics on trying to get it out of there and all that stuff, make a plan. Well, that's when my life flipped upside down. And everything changed. I was selling cars because I was in the process of having to sell my house, move, all that jazz. And I didn't have a house that I bought yet, so I didn't even know what I was going to have. So all my stuff I was keeping was going into storage I was paying for, and I was selling off cars so I didn't have to pay for storage to them. And ironically, 2 of the cars I sold off was the same model of this car that I'm going to get. So anyway, now fast forward to now. Well, at that point, when that happened, I reached out to him and just told him, you know, my life's flipping upside down. I can't take that thing right now. And he said, okay. So I assumed somebody else would have grabbed it out of there. But long shot, I just recently reached out to him, and it is still there. So, and he said, if you want to get it out of there, it's yours. So I said, okay. So I reached out to my buddy that found it for me and told him I was going to go get it. And he said that, you know, where he was the one that found it, he wanted to be involved with getting it out. So now between his schedule, my schedule, the vintage drag racing and weather and everything else, because this is not something I want to do in the rain, we just haven't been able to get there. Well, looks like it's going to happen tomorrow. So tomorrow will be the day of digging this thing out. Today I need to empty out that truck there from where I just went and got that motor and get the bed totally emptied out. And then I got my other truck over here. I have a lot of recovery equipment in there and farm jacks and, excuse me, you name it. So I'm going to get stuff unloaded out of this, put into that. I got wheels and tires for it. I got wheel spaces, lug nuts, everything I could possibly need, taps for the wheel studs. So I'm going to have to load up tons and tons of stuff between jacks and sledgehammers and cut-off wheels and sawzalls and chainsaws and landscaping equipment and ratchet straps and come-alongs and chains and shovels and boards and floor jacks and you name it. I got to load it all up. So this load up process is going to be pretty extensive to get everything ready, and so that'll be part of today's video of what I'm bringing. So if you watch what I'm bringing, it'll paint a decent picture of how bad this situation is going to be. And then I believe I still have a video that I took of cutting through the woods to get out to the car to give you an idea of where we're going, and I'll try and put that in at the end of the video. And then tomorrow's video, hopefully, as long as all goes well and no tragedies happen, it'll be the extraction process. And normally I'm doing all this stuff by hand, but this time one of my buddies offered me his use of his Bobcat, his truck and trailer and everything. So I think it's foolish to not take the opportunity to use that equipment, mainly because of how much overgrowth this was. If I could just pull up to the car with a trailer, I wouldn't be using the Bobcat at all. I would just strictly be digging, jacking, hammering, and freeing up, strapping, and all that jazz. So this thing is in very poor shape. It's going to take a lot of work to get it out of there, attempt to get it out of there in one piece. So let's see what we're going to load up, and then we'll go over it in the end, and wish me luck that I don't forget and leave anything behind, because you name it, I need it. Like, I'd even need picks and drills, because he can't find the keys for it, because naturally the thing's been in the woods since the 80s and the ignition is not busted. So and it's in the column, so it's a steering wheel lock and everything else. And so I got to bring everything. So let's get loaded up. Enough. This is a long intro. I apologize for this long intro, but I assure you the recovery process is going to be worth the wait. Cool car, amazing experience.